This
Good
meeting is being recorded.
good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with Taylor from Life Goal Investments. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me as always.
Yeah, so we're back after you took last week off. You know, the stock market was closed Monday.
Lazy.
Lazy. I kid. I don't. Have you seen a lot of the headlines coming out of the Ukraine in the last 3 or 4 days about them taking back cities and towns and just seemingly making great progress?
It's always weird because you talk about an area of the world you've never been to before, and
Yeah.
they start throwing out numbers and this amount of square mileage, and I'm like, I have no idea what any of this means. It all sounds great. They're talking about the Kharkiv region,
Yeah.
and I did see something that made it concrete to me, which I thought was nice. They said the amount of territory they took back was about the same size as Rhode Island.
Oh,
And that was the first thing that I heard that I was like, okay, I know Rhode Island's not huge and state-wise, but their country's also not that big. So it's a much bigger portion for them than it would be for us by all means.
Yeah. So where I wanted to go with this, because again, when I look at my roster of experts, you're the only one with 10 years of Wall Street experience, right? You were on Wall Street.
Right.
And as you know, Wall Street is really a forward-looking mechanism. And it just feels to me, and again, I could be completely wrong. I'm out of my depths, but that doesn't stop me from trying. I saw all the positive headlines over the weekend, and I'm like, I think Wall Street is going to read this like the war is going to end tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean next 10 days, whatever.
Right.
There could be a regime change in Russia because, again, at some point you push back hard enough, people inside Russia go, hey, we're losing this. We're losing faith. We need a change. Goodbye.
How much money do we spend on this? What did it cause from a geopolitical standpoint?
Yeah.
All
goodbye,
that, yes.
so-and-so, he goes away one way or another.
Yep.
And, bingo, bango, the war is over. And that does so many good things for the world economy, right? Oil goes back or gas goes back. It just feels to me like Wall Street is reading the tea leaves and placing a bet this could be over soon and in a positive way. Am I crazy or what's going on?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't see any real reason for the last 4 or 5 days of market rally that we've seen outside of that. I do think Wall Street's a bit of a coiled spring right now where one direction or the other, they want to buy into a narrative. They want to get on board with a bull or a bear market directionally. So I do think that there's pent up demand, and it's not upward demand or downward demand. It's give me something to react upon demand. And I think that you absolutely seeing that based on what happened in the Ukraine, because there's nothing else that's meaningfully happened to put your finger on to say, hey, this caused it. So I absolutely think that's the case. It's interesting. Like, geopolitics is nothing to bet upon, but it's certainly the direction of things seems to be improving. I mean, good for the Ukrainians, not for nothing, but good for the Ukrainians. They have withstood this massive push of this army that's, gargantuan relative to what they are, withstood it and bang back and now forcing them back out. Hopefully they can continue to do so. The ripple effect of what goes forward from a global economy standpoint will be really, really interesting, because I really think from a macro standpoint, they being Russia, are now looked at like Germany was post World War II or towards the end of World War II, where everyone looks at them and said, who thought this was okay to do? Where is your moral code? We're going to step in and punish you. And I think that's a lot of what led us into this. I've read a lot of articles and a lot of white papers on talking about the fact that when World War II ended, Germany was the one at fault. They were the one that everyone points at. Now, they had people on their own side, but they were the ones that started this whole thing. And what they then had to do was start to ingratiate other economies and bring other economies into the fold. And so they took on Russian oil and they said, hey, we need to lend that olive branch out to them. And what they then did was become overly dependent upon the oil that Russia is providing. So who knows how things change? And again, to your point, is the administration that is in Russia still the same afterwards, and what plays out from that standpoint? But what the market reacts to is rate of change. Is the war over? No. Has it changed in a positive direction for who we are all rooting for? Let's, be honest, call a spade a spade. We're all rooting for the Ukrainians. Has it changed in a positive direction for that? Is that good for the global economy? Yes, yes, yes. Mark it up.
So let's just, again, I cannot imagine. Let's just say sometime in the month of September, there's 21 days left. or 19 days or whatever is left. We get a headline when we wake up in the morning that says war is over. Ukraine's declared the victory. Let's just, again, the regime change and so-and-so's in charge now, not the other so-and-so.
Yep.
How violent is the reaction up in the market? I cannot imagine. I mean, again, just paint a picture of how do these dominoes fall? Ukraine wins, war's over, gas is on to Germany. What the hell happens?
I think probably what happens is that information starts to leak and become more obvious between here and there.
Okay.
So I think that
So it's
that,
not a day. It's kind of,
yeah, it's the regression of the army moving back from, Ukraine back into Russia. The tea leaves start to be a little bit more
peace
clear.
talks and
And that's what's starting to play out right now, right? So you're already starting to see a little bit of that play out in the market as we're speaking at this point. Again, it's all about rate of change. It's not about definitive nature, one way, war yes, war no. The market reacts to that. So, but all that being said, I mean, if you get positive, definitive news that the war is over, you will absolutely see a run of the market in the upward direction. Yeah, absolutely.
It'll
And
be
you'll
almost
also
everything. Tech.
yeah,
industrials.
you'll see a loosening of the supply chain kind of issue that's existing in a lot of the commodities. All of that will start to break loose. And think about what could happen. So, oil was a huge hedge against, buy oil because Russia's going to turn off the spigot. What happens on the other end if Russia then begins to turn back on the spigot and starts to export things again? And again, we don't really know how the world is going to react. We don't know what will happen from a political standpoint of who's at the helm, because that will determine a lot of things. And how quickly are people just willing to drop the sanctions that we put on them? It'll really be interesting to see how it plays out. Yeah, we haven't seen a massive political, economic, all of those things, like a real war that's caused massive, political tension. And I shouldn't say that. We just came out of a 20-year war ourselves, but you get what I'm saying, where it's also a massive power in the world.
Yeah. Then the last thing I kind of think about, again, I think you're right. We wake up, it's over, the market rips just because it's great news.
Yep.
But then I step back as a macroeconomist guy and I go, we got to, there'd be a lot of rebuilding going on, right? That's kind of inflationary.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see, what changes between us and China, right?
Yeah.
What's the knock-on effect between us and China as they have sided on the opposite side of what we wanted them to do? So we all tried to put the screws to Russia by saying, hey, we're not taking any more oil. And China and India on the other side are going,
gimme.
This is awesome. This is awesome. We're getting cheap oil.
Let me buy it at a discount. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And how do we look at them now? Those are two of the biggest economies in the world. We look at them and say, okay, we slap your hand or we don't slap your hand. You certainly didn't do what we wanted you to do at that time.
Yeah.
And not that we rule. Like I realize that's very egocentric of us Americans. Like the Europeans wanted the same thing. Like, I mean, across the board.
Yeah. No, again, I believe in kind of good karma. So let's hope this thing ends this month. Let's get it behind us. I do not want to see this thing go through the winter for anybody. Going through the winter is not good for anyone in the world. It's bad for everyone. There will be people that are starving from food that's not being shipped out of the bread belt. People in Germany and rest of Europe will be cold. There'll be small businesses it's just in this thing.
They did it. They did an interesting study. I can't remember if it was Barron's or someone on the pubs in England. Yeah. And they were talking about the pubs in England. Their heating costs are literally outweighing their revenue. And it's like, that's not sustainable for more than like a couple months in a row.
No, you got to shut that down. So let's hope the good news is true. Let's hope this ends, tomorrow, today, whatever you want. Just make Taylor, send somebody an email, make this thing go away. Will you?
I'll just press the button.
You got it, buddy. Well, tell people where they can find you. Cause again, you're putting out great stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, thanks so much for the compliment. Find us at Life Goal Investments on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.